Now, on this J6 committee final report, I just want to tell our viewers that the official name of this House Congressional Committee investigating the Capitol attack is called the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack of the United States Capitol. And it's been dubbed as the J6 Committee. Findings that is reported by the committee's executive summary. I will start with this on page 4 of the executive summary of the final report. It says this report supplies immense volume of information and testimony assembled through the Select Committee's investigation, including information obtained following litigation in federal district and appellate courts, as well as in the United States Supreme Court. Based upon this assembled evidence, the committee has reached a series of specific findings. There were actually 17 specific findings, including the following. Finding number 1. Beginning election night and continuing through January 6th and thereafter, Donald Trump purposely disseminated false allegations of fraud related to the 2020 presidential election in order to aid his effort to overturn the election and for purposes of soliciting contributions. These false claims provoked his supporters to violence on January 6th. Now, I want to make a comment on this. What it is referring to is that if you could remember, anyone can remember, there were like a series of rallies even after the election and after Joe Biden's victory has been known. And Donald Trump went on like a speaking tour and rally tour about the election being stolen from him, saying that this is just not it's unusual that I was winning on election night and then the following day the result had flipped towards Joe Biden. And in those speaking events, rallies in several places, he was actually soliciting contributions, and people were donating and sending money to him, that he raked up several millions in those efforts. And this also in the testimony of the many witnesses who explained this, that in spite the fact that some high-ranking officials in his administration and in his circle already told him, you lost the election, including Attorney General William Barr at the time. Finding number 2. Knowing that he and his supporters had lost dozens of election lawsuits, and despite his own senior advisors refuting his election fraud claims and urging him to concede his election loss, Donald Trump refused to accept the lawful result of the 2020 election. Rather than honor his constitutional obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, as in his, when president is sworn in, President Trump instead plotted to overturn the election outcome. My commentary in this is that within the 48 hours, many had come to Donald Trump's in his inner circle and said, you lost the election, Mr. President. And he wouldn't accept it. There were people like William Barr, Pat Cipollone, the White House counsel, said that, Mr. President, you lost the election. You need to concede. Okay? And the president would not do it. Now, instead of upholding the law, as when a president is sworn in into office, holding the Bible on his left hand, to take care of the laws and have it faithfully executed, former President Donald Trump did not do it. He was determined, to make this election overturned, the 2020 election. So that's basically a little summary of what the findings are in as far as Donald Trump not wanting to concede. Finding number 3. Despite knowing that such action would be illegal and that no state had or would submit an altered electoral slate, I should say, Donald Trump corruptly pressured Vice President Mike Pence to refuse to count electoral votes during Congress joint session on January 6th. Here's my commentary on that. This was days before, a couple of days before the January 6th tragedy. Donald Trump has this legal theory submitted to him by lawyer John Eastman. This legal theory is asserting that Vice President Mike Pence, then Vice President Mike Pence, can unilaterally disregard the result of the election by reading different votes from a different electoral slate and saying that, instead of the President-elect Joe Biden, that the legal theory was that Mike Pence can unilaterally overturn an election. And that is not so. It was there was an important legal opinion by a former, a retired Court of Appeals judge who sent a letter and a memo to Vice President Mike Pence and said, no, you don't, because they sought his opinion. Vice presidential staff sought the opinion of this judge. And the judge said, no, you don't have that power to overturn an election. So that's why after Mike Pence refuses to do so, then the former president started calling, bad names and derogatory comment about the vice president as being a coward and you're not working with me. And there were even attempt during the January 6th attack to spirit away, according to some reporting, that to spirit away the vice president away from Washington, D.C. And the vice president said, no, I'm not going into that car. I'm not going in that car. Because he was feeling that, there was like, what, you're gonna spirit me away to Alaska? And so that's what, the pressure that the former president was putting on former Vice President Mike Pence, which is mentioned on findings number 3. We are going to take a commercial break, so don't go away. We are going to continue with the findings of the J6 committee report. Finding number 4, that is reported in the executive summary. Donald Trump sought to corrupt the U.S. Department of Justice by attempting to enlist Department of Justice officials to make purposely false statements and thereby aid his effort to overturn the presidential election. After that effort failed, Donald Trump offered the position of acting Attorney General to Jeff Clark, knowing that Clark intended to disseminate false information aimed at overturning the election. This was a time when, during that time, Attorney General William Barr had already resigned. And then there was an acting Attorney General. Um, but Donald Trump wanted someone in the Department of Justice who agrees with him, or we will share, who can participate in his effort. And one, U.S. attorney at the Justice Department by the name of Jeff Clark was his choice, because in the earlier during the year, Jeff Clark may have made a comment that was likable, that Donald Trump liked, and uh, and Jeff Clark was amenable to being named the acting Attorney General. But all the other U.S. attorneys, including those really on the core in the Justice Department, said and told the president that if he appoints Jeff Clark as acting Attorney General, there will be a mass resignation uh, in the Justice Department, and there will be no one left there to run the Justice Department. And allegedly, the former president backed out from that suggestion of, or that desire to name Jeff Clark as acting Attorney General.